going into Taiwan, UK. I mean, it wasn't my fault. I'm not late. I'm just delayed early.
It's your fault.
Is it my fault?
I feel like it was.
The good thing is they're just feelings. And feelings, as we all know, have zero intellect. So happiest Tuesday. I want to tell you guys that we will not be here next Tuesday. Thanks for the hearts. Next Tuesday is Dia de Sugar. I don't know if that's Spanish. But I will be with my 3-year-old grandchild. We will not be having the live next Tuesday. We will not be having the Smarty Pants Special Education Academy. Because they don't have Wi-Fi. My grandchild lives in another country, Louisiana. And they don't have electricity there, so I can't log on. Do they have electricity, Alicia? Are they getting that?
They're slowly working on it.
Are they bringing electricity via the railroad? Is that right?
Something like that.
Yeah. So,
They might be in the P-Row and the Bayou.
I'll be having a hoedown in Homa.
Okay, you ready, boss?
I'm ready, kids.
I'm going to hit you with some pre-submitted questions. Okay? Hello! The school nurse gave the school a 2-week notice that they hired a new nurse but did not tell the parents. The new nurse is in training for a week and not in the building. The school called the parents to do G2 feedings 10 minutes prior to the child needing it. My son is in the same class as this child. My son has a 1-to-1 pair every day and a home health nurse 2 days a week. The school called me to inform me that there is no nurse at school tomorrow and I would need to come to the school this week to give him his G2 feedings. He gets 2 during the school day at 9 a.m. and 1:30. They run 1 hour long. My issue is that the school waited until last minute to inform me. Is this illegal?
So the only thing that's illegal are things that you file on and a fact finder, a judge, a hearing officer deems illegal. So there are lots of things that are wrong that aren't illegal. I certainly know that that's probably inconvenient and unfortunate. I don't know that it was malicious. Hopefully they'll have a replacement person soon, but probably could have been handled a bit different.
All right. Okay, I have a licensing question. We have 3 quote-unquote special education teachers in our high school. Neither of those who are licensed. 2 are on provisional license. 1 is on an international license. Basically, at the end of the day, the State Department of Education is saying that the provisional licensed teachers, it's fine for them to teach the class. She's asking if it's legal.
So, the requirements for special education teachers is in the federal code under 300.156, CFR 300.156. And it lists the requirements for special education teachers only because I had to read it to some school districts today. So first of all, a special education teacher has to first be a certified general education teacher. So there's a lot of double talk in school districts. I sat in it today in 2 meetings. They told me that they had a waiver for an apprenticeship program. I'm like, are y'all making like wooden sandals? What are you talking about? And so I said to them, of course, there's no waiver for special education. There's never been a waiver for special education. There are emergency, provisional, and alternate routes to get a general education teacher qualifications in states. They're in every state, right? But there is no emergency special education teachers without qualifications. And so the letter from OSEB, Office of Special Education Programs, October 4th, 2022, was very clean and very clear, and it went out to all states. And so I would lean on compliance for your state. Not somebody said something in a meeting, not an attorney said something in a meeting, not somebody on the phone said something in a meeting. If it is a law, it is in writing. It's in writing, okay? So I would ask the state for that in writing. So I was on the phone today with a state education agency, and on the phone she kind of said yes, but then when she emailed it, she was like, no. Right. So again, remember, the people on the phone are not going to give you legal advice, nor should they, nor am I giving you legal advice. I'm not a legaler. But it either is in the state statute or it's not. So that means your state statute would have to reduce the benefit of IDEA, and that is illegal in all states.
Thank you so much. Okay. My son is in the 5th grade and has had a 504 since he was in 2nd grade. He's on 2 medications and does pretty well considering. The 5th grade teachers recently sent home a flyer for an upcoming fall fun day. The flyer said that the 5th grade teachers have decided to make attending the fall fun day a behavioral incentive. If the student gets 3 marks on his or her behavior folder from now until Halloween, they're not allowed to attend. I don't agree with this because my son's on a 504 for behaviors. Is this legal?
There's not language about, school parties and IDEA. Some of them, they're just ethically wrong, right? That's like saying, if a kid's not reading at grade level, they can't come to the fall festival. Well, that would penalize kids that can't read, right? I would reach out to your administration and see if there could be an exemption or an exception for your child.
All right. This one is from a special education teacher. She is the teacher along with 2 others in her room. They have a student who is autistic and is physically aggressive, verbally aggressive to the student and the staff. He will say things that I can't say on TikTok, so we're just going to skip that.
Mm-hmm.
He says, he has an SBA and a BIP, but honestly, I don't think he's in the right educational placement. I have voiced my concerns to my administrators, and it falls on deaf ears. I don't know what else I can do with these behaviors. Can you advise on what you would do or what I should do?
So I can advise on what I would do, which isn't what you should do. I wouldn't stay working someplace where I wasn't supported as a professional. And you guys got to lean into that. Wherever you live and wherever you work, the climate is the climate. You're not going to change that. So I wouldn't work, at Dell Computers or a school district or, ABC Farms if it wasn't a climate that I agree with. So if you work in a climate in education and you agree with their modalities, their processes, their pathology, way they do business, then stay there. But if you've already reached out to the person who's supposed to support you and cover you and it fell on deaf ears, then that response is your answer. If you stay there, then you allow that, right? And what I can tell you is every district, every city, every county in America is looking for amazing teachers, and it sounds like you are one. So take your amazingness on down the road to another campus.
Amen to that. Okay, sorry. Felt that on a personal level.
On a personal level, yeah.
Yeah. All right, this one is from another special education teacher. First, she started with, I really appreciate your TikToks.
Oh, good.
She's in her 23rd year.
Oh, wow.
And there have been some things she has seen and heard that are simply mind-boggling. She is now the special education coordinator, and related service person basically told her that they would, and I quote, prefer to have an opportunity to determine if OT needs should be on a formal evaluation per my observational and professional judgment. Mind you, this service provider is a contract person who is at our school maybe 2 hours a week. I think I know the answer, but wanted to ask you what your thoughts are so I can make an informed decision based on the legal side of things.
Yeah, so we do evaluations so that we can be clear on our determinations. So while I appreciate an opinion, a teacher's opinion or even an evaluator's opinion is something that can be verified. Andrew F., March 22nd, 2017. So we ask for formal evaluation because they have standardization, they have a process, and they have parameters around them, right? And so somebody's drive-by opinion doesn't benefit students. So I don't care whether or not he meets eligibility for the instructional related service. I care that your evaluation was done with ethics, with fidelity, and in the confines and scope of your practice.
Amen. Snaps for that. Sorry. Okay, this one was on TikTok. Is there a federal or state law that protects children on a special education bus? A friend's son was told to buckle himself and ended up on the floor for 2 minutes during the bus ride before the bus driver got him seated properly. This boy is 4 years old with Down syndrome. Shouldn't all sped buses legally have to have an aide?
So all sped buses have an aide because the bus driver is the bus driver, right? And depending on the size of the student in that IEP meeting, we immediately say, hey, does Nicholas need a certain kind of seating just based on his weight. And that can be everything from a 5-point harness to we have apparatuses that if a child was in a wheelchair, it would safely lock their wheelchair so they could stay in their wheelchair. So that's all done in the IEP meeting. If it wasn't, I would call bologna sauce on that. But when you're filling out the transportation supplement, which is a related service under IDEA, that should be the first question. Does your student, whether he's 22 or 3, need to be strapped in? What is the device that's appropriate for him to be strapped in? And that could be, a young man that was 6 foot tall that's 22 years old that needs that for his safety.
Thank you. Okay, my child has missed speech services from school due to the school not being properly staffed. I asked when my child would get those sessions made up, and they said, quote unquote, once the campus is fully staffed, an attempt to make up services will be made during normal school hours. However, it is not guaranteed. I was informed the district is looking into ways to make up sessions if they are not met by the end of the school year. Please let me know if you have any other questions. Is this correct?
Yeah, so it's not. So if you accept manure, you're going to get manure. There's other words for manure. You can Google it. So nobody's going to give you something. So how you make sure that things are delivered in the codified agreement, right? That what we agreed upon, the conformity of the IEP, the legal requirements, right? Is that you require it. So I would track all those. Your student didn't miss speech. He was denied a free, appropriate public education. Say it with me. He was denied a free, appropriate public education. And based on that denial, for whatever reason, Mickey Mouse showed up, the Chick-fil-A cow ran through the bill. I don't really care why he was denied that. He was denied that. And so based on that denial, I'm going to capture the minutes that were denied him. I'm going to file a quite simple state complaint. Well, first I'm going to ask the school to deliver that compensatory time. I'm going to give them one option. If they don't do it, then it's a simple state complaint. It's called failure to implement his IEP. You failed to implement the IEP. Get out of the why. Why does not matter. You listen to why and you feel all bad for people. That doesn't serve your kid, right? If I was the teacher and your kid was supposed to get insulin and I said, oh, we've just been really short on insulin givers, that's okay, right? No. So an educational benefit is as equally, if not more important and impactful as a medical benefit. So calculate those minutes that he missed, now those hours that he missed. Give the special ed director an opportunity to give you a compensatory package. If that doesn't happen, then execute your legal rights and procedural safeguards and parental rights and file a state complaint that your child was denied a free, appropriate public education by denying him his related and instructional services of speech and language therapy.
Amen. Okay.
It's a lot of amens. I like it. Look how long Gina's hair is all of a sudden. Sorry, I just noticed that. Are those extensions?
No, she said no. Okay, this lady was so cute. She messaged you on TikTok, and she was like, I have one question. Okay, I have one more. Okay, no, I have 3.
I like that.
But so cute. They're all around EBD referrals.
Okay.
So the first one, when making a referral, who is the one to contact parents? The school site or the classroom teacher?
So it'd be great if I ever saw referrals from school. But anybody from the school actually has a legal obligation, onus, duty, and responsibility that if they suspect a disability, that they do the referral. Who fills out the paperwork is different. Usually it could be an LSSP, an LPC, a social worker, the SPED lead, the ART facilitator. It just varies by state.
Okay. And her second part was, in order for a student to qualify for an EBD referral, do they have to suffer academically?
So there's no such thing as qualifying for referral. The qualification's pretty clean. It says in Child Fine 300.111, it says that schools have a duty to refer children for special education and related services if they suspect or have been told that there's a suspicion of a disability. Doesn't say anything about qualifying.
Perfect. And then the last one of her questions, she said the last one, I promise.
I promise.
Is last year's data usable for a referral of the current school year?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. There's a great association, the National Association of School Psychologists. You should all get their emails. We were talking about a kiddo today had a new evaluation, and they were going to change her SLDs and reduce 2 of them. She's a senior. And I said, no, we're going to look at the totality of data, right? The responsibility is to look at the totality. And we looked at data back 6 years, right? What is the pattern? What is the impact? What is the outcome, right? And they were going to remove reading comprehension, and she's in resource reading. And so a year, certainly that's present levels, and anything that's a pattern, right? If it's a pattern, those are present levels. If we did RTI for 2 years, way too long. If we did the amazing, lovely 504 for 3 years, right? We look at the pattern of how we addressed and intervened for a child, and look if did that change outcomes. And if it didn't, then we keep going to the next level of support.
Are schools required to provide an aid before switching kids to a different room?
Provide an aid? Do you mean like are schools required to have an adult with children when they switch room if they have disabilities?
I'm interpreting it as switching placement,
So there are kids with disabilities. There are kids with intellectual disabilities that could go from Miss Quinn class to Miss Gina's class. They've learned to do that successfully. You know, there's no duty on the school to notify you of stuff. They're going to paint the school. They're going to change staff members. They don't owe you anything, right? I certainly hope that we're providing adults for children that need them in the school building, whether they're transitioning or anything. But a change of placement requires an IEP meeting and a discussion. I was in a meeting today, and she told me, she goes, I went in today and I already changed it, but I want to show you the changes. Oh, that's like being invited to a DNQ IEP meeting.
And someone has asked, would you repeat the website that you just mentioned in that previous question?
Yeah, I don't know that I told the website, but it's called NASP. N is in Nancy, A is in amazing, S is in S, and P is in pow. National Association of School Psychologists. I find their information so helpful because, of course, a school psychologist can provide testing in the emotional behavioral space, psychological space, and in the diagnostic space. Really, really good entity. Look at the IEP investigator, NASPA.
Can you explain the manifestation process?
Can I explain it to you? Yes. So the MDR stands for Manifestation Determination Resolution Meeting. And what that simply means is if a child has a disability and they had a behavior that requires a discussion and possibly an outcome around discipline, we are legally required to hold an IEP meeting to see if that discipline was in fact the result of one of 2 things. Number 1, a characteristic of his disability, whether it's happened or not. Is there a probability, a likelihood on what we know about him and his disability that was from his disability? Number 2, failure to implement the IEP. And so in that meeting, if we determine that no to either one of those, then there's a high probability that your student will be held to the totality of the student code of conduct. If it is a manifestation of his disability, then there should be little, if any, consequence, in my opinion, or a consequence that's certainly understandable and appropriate for that student. If the disability, if the behavior was a result of the school not implementing the IEP, then there is no discipline.
The para is doing 95% of the teaching while the teacher sits at her desk. Legal or not?
Well, no, because the teacher is a teacher of record. The paras are like a good pair of pantyhose. They are a support staff member, and we are so thankful for all the paras. God bless you, God bless you, God bless you. We know you did the heavy lifting, but they are not the teacher of record. They do not make lesson plans. They don't make IEP goals, and they certainly don't provide initial instruction, whether it is the teacher of record for general ed or the special education teacher.
My daughter is 4 and has autism. She uses an AC device, and the doctor note states to use it all times, but the school is not giving her access to it at all times. What do I do?
So there's a legal requirement when a child has an AAC device Let me see if I have one here. I have so many due process OCR complaints. Let me see if I can find one that addresses it. So I don't have the statute in front of me, but AAC device, a voice output communication device, is your voice, right? And so we let other kids have access to their voice all day long, right? So what I have my families do is I have them log the minutes on the VOCD. First of all, you want to make sure that the voice output communication device is going to both settings, because that way you build it. And when you're home at night, you can pull the minutes from that device. And while I don't need you to use it for all 375 instructional minutes of the day, I think that you would be stunned to find that sometimes that VOCD device is used a minute, sometimes not at all, sometimes 23 minutes a day. And depending on the software, you'll find out that it says word, candy, word, sheep. So the statute says, the federal law and the state law says that the teacher of record has to be able to use that communication system with the same efficiency as she does with other people. And so that's a Karen version of the law. But what it means is if I am an English speaking teacher and I'm speaking to all 24 other kids with this level of efficiency, I have to be able to communicate with the student who's using an alternative augmentative system in the same level of efficiency. So kind of something easier to figure out is if you had a person that was signing in your classroom, they would have an interpreter, right? They would have somebody providing them instruction in sign language. Sign language is AAC. It's an alternative augmentative communication system as well.
Can I ask for records of when my child was pulled for speech therapy to make sure minutes are met?
So you can have a record of when they service log. So there's a service log that is filled out by the OT, O&M, speech pathologist that says, hey, it's April 1st at 10 a.m. and I pulled Billy. There's not a requirement that we say that I had Billy from 10 to 10:30, but those service logs should be commensurate with your schedule of services page on the determination of services page or the schedule of services page.
If my child is supposed to have a one-to-one, but the district has not been able to fill the position, what can I do?
You can file a state complaint that your student was denied a free, appropriate public education and your student was harmed.
Sorry, I'm kind of broken up. Hang on just a second. My special education child has been left out of all general ed activities. Is this allowed?
So that's an administration issue, right? All students are general ed students. There are just some general ed students who receive special education services. So I certainly always give the district, the campus, the county, the location a chance to fix it. Like, fix it, right? I want two things. I want you to get it right and keep it right. So I'm certainly going to start at the place where they can get it right, and that's the campus. If not, then I would go up higher, because that's a civil rights issue. That's just discrimination based on disability, which is something that I file with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights.
Okay, if a child requires modifications and non-accommodations, are they required to take the ALT assessment?
So an accommodation changes how we learn. A modification changes what we learn. Alternative curriculum is not an accommodation or modification. It's an actual different curriculum. So the specificity around your state test for meeting requirements for the ALT are laid out, and usually it starts out with some language around does your child have a significant cognitive disability that impacts their access to grade level standards across settings. There's more questions, it's laid out in the paperwork. But you could have accommodations and modifications and not meet eligibility for the ALT, and you could have accommodations and modifications and meet eligibility. It depends on the totality of your disability.
The school team has taken data and the student displays zero safety risk and zero elopement attempts, but parents are filing due process on us for a one-to-one. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Parents have the right to file on whatever violation they believe has occurred for their child. Certainly there are valid filings that parents lose, and there are filings that have nothing to do with state or federal statutes. We live in a litigious society. If I want to go down to the Galveston County Courthouse and file that I think that we know that Quinn and her kitty owe me $10,000 for my speedboat, I'm allowed to go file in a court of law. So that's one of your rights as being an American. Thank you for what you're doing teaching kiddos. And it's unfortunate that we get to impasse where we can't talk about things and resolve things at the table.
McKenna says, I am a special education teacher, but I love what you do. How can I begin an advocacy career?
Come on down. You're the next contestant. So you can take the 2-day intensive on demand, or we have the next one November 11th and 12th that weekend. And we'll have several outfit changes. We have to change every hour. I'm just kidding. Well, there'll be 4 outfit changes. And then we have our amazing mastermind, which all of my affiliates have conquered and crushed, and countless people have taken the mastermind. That will start January 5th. It's a 10-week, 20-hour course. That's really where you're going to learn the processes and procedures and ways that we execute successful student outcomes for kids with disabilities.
Okay. I want my child to get free pre-K with just a mild to moderate speech impairment. Do you think I could get this?
No. Nope. I could be wrong. So, the 3 to 5-year-old eligibility has always been and will always be the number one eligibility has to be a profound speech impairment. When my son was little, I want to say, of course, that was 100 years ago, I think the standard score was 82, so somewhere in the 12th percentile. Now most states have it in the 7th percentile. So that is a profound speech impairment, sometimes almost what we would call nonverbal. But certainly get that testing. Testing does one of 2 things. It identifies or eliminates, and then we'll find out which one of us is right.
You have said, even in Georgia, in one of your videos. Does that mean that Georgia has more strict laws or something?
You know what? Georgia doesn't have good laws. Georgia's laws are what we would call wonky. They're just a whole lot of nothing. The point of a law is to give the people that live there clear parameters around expectations, right? And as somebody told me one time, I think it was a hearing officer, the reason we have laws is because people don't follow the rules, right? If we followed the rules, we wouldn't need laws. So there's that. I love the people in Georgia. Sometimes I want to take out my spray bottle and spray them in the meeting, except for it would ruin my laptop. There's some amazing people in Georgia, and there's some people in Georgia that should have their mouth washed out with a bar of Zest. So, but it's a beautiful state.
How many IEP meetings should we have every year?
So, I have clients that I literally have. I do about 500 IEP meetings a year because I like to grind my teeth, and I have so many outfits to wear. So I have some clients that literally will have one IEP meeting, which is what we all want, right? You want that, I want that. Go in there, here's what we decided would be good for the next 36 instructional weeks, and there are some IEP meetings, by golly, we just are walking through mud. My job is not to educate staff members, but when you have lack of education combined with this other toxic component called ego, it makes the meetings very uncomfortable. And some meetings that we get into, me and one of my dear friends who actually has real blonde hair, literally so-and-so, I don't know what his name was, but his first name was Doctor. Oh, okay. Because my client said Mr. So-and-so, and he said, like, doctor. So I guess if you're a doctor, you have to say it like that. She said, you're being aggressive. And I had to step in and say, you're being offensive and aggressive. And it's just not, we're 7 minutes into it. Like, calm down, tiny dancer. You're not really that important. None of us are. We're at a meeting for a child that has a disability. Quit acting like you're a baby. And so it's supposed to be a meeting of grown-ups, but sometimes I don't see the grown-ups. And so, doctor. I was like, oh, did you like spit came flying out? I'm like, that's going to mess up my outfit. But Congratulations on being a doctor. So it doesn't have to be like that. I think that 99% of people in education and special education love kids. I really do. And I think there's a few people that sip on pickle juice and come into meetings like Grumpy Cat. So I don't like those people. I like people that love kids and want to do what's right.
All right, I'm a gen ed teacher to 6 kids with IEPs, and the district won't give me the login to view them.
Correct. You know, we have all this fancy software, which actually just ends up locking out other school-based members. I mean, you know, more than half the people that I have the blessing to train are school-based members, and they can't even get in to see a kiddo's present levels, much less their FIE, much less an evaluation. So I don't know why people lock their own people out of software. It's goofy, but at the beginning of the year, you should have received a teacher bundle. If you have a child in your class that has a 504 or an IEP, the school district is obligated to provide you that documentation as an educator so that you can fulfill your roles as it relates to that document.
Exactly. All right. My student is in a self-contained classroom. Do I have to have a gen ed teacher present at the IEP meeting for it to be legal?
You have to have a general ed teacher at an IEP meeting, period. I was in a meeting this morning with a beautiful little boy. He has the best name. I wish I could tell you what his name is. And he's 3. He's just a baby. Like, he just turned 3 this summer. And the mom's like, why is there a general ed teacher? I said, it's a requirement. She goes, but why is he there? Because it's the law. She said, but why is he there? It's a requirement. So we have 5 required English. We have 5 required members of the IEP meeting, right? And they are, number 1, parent, who case law will indicate that is the expert. Number 2, the LEA rep, the local education agency rep, which could be a principal, an associate principal, a vice principal, a counselor, or somebody from the district level. A general ed teacher, because every child in America in public school is a general ed student. Even for students that will go to school from 3 to 22 and never be in a general ed class, they're first general ed students. And so we always have the general ed teacher so we can talk about what that would look like to include them appropriately. Number 4, we would have a special education teacher that teaches your child. And number 5, we would have somebody there that could understand, interpret, and answer questions about special education testing.
Yes. All right. How can the school kick a student off of an IEP and say he can't be helped anymore? We should just let them flunk out.
Did they have a TikTok account? I'm just kidding. I don't know. You know, there's lots of things that I think that I don't say, thank goodness. Not here with you, friends. But I am stunned at people that will say a human has no more capacity. They have nowhere to grow. That is devastating. It's discriminatory, and it's so biased. I don't know why those people work with children, and I don't know why they are impacting children's outcomes.
Definitely. All right. We have a special education teacher who is expecting. Does she need a certified sub for her leave?
In my brain, I was like, does she need a certified nurse? That's what I was thinking. So there's no such thing as a certified sub. There are substitute teachers that are just regular humans. Like, I'm just a regular human. There are substitute teachers that have their teaching certificate. There are substitute teachers that are related or instructional service providers. There are substitute teachers that are special educators. If her role is to be filled while she's gone, it would be filled by somebody that has the same qualifications. So make sure that she has a certified nurse. I just want her to have that. But yes, a person with credentials should replace her while she's out on maternity leave. Enjoy your maternity leave, and you know what? Just, forward our TikToks.
Okay, what should I do if the school keeps sending my son with Down syndrome home?
So you should document those. Every time the school sends your child home, it is out of placement. So the law says, when you're removed, Whether the school removes you for discipline measures or they call and say, hey, Quinn, come get Billy. It's a wrap. That's a day of removal. So I would count those days and do an MDR.
Okay. When you have a review IEP meeting, does the school need to update the plan?
It depends on, there's lots of different IEP names. I'm going to assume in almost all IEP meetings except for a brief, although they're rarely brief, or revision IEP, that we wouldn't need to update the present levels because I'm changing something. You might have a brief IEP meeting to, let's say that, Chris and, Christina decide they want transportation. Well, I don't need to update the present levels. Their son already qualifies for transportation. But if we're changing something, that should be based on new information in the present levels. So I'm always going to ask for updated present levels before I go into any meeting. Obviously, I want the draft ahead of time, so I'm certainly going to include updated PLAFs.
Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of rapid fire, apparently.
We are?
We
Wow.
are.
That was so early. They're all making hand motions. They're like,
I'm telling you.
ma'am, the building's...
Not early. We ended 7 minutes.
You need emojis. Ask those questions. So we have some rapid fire questions. Ready, go. Just Mel, type it into the question, into the comments. What should I do if a teacher drugged my son by his arm into the school?
So you would do the same thing as if I drug your child in the neighborhood, what would you do? You would call Child Protective Services. And if I was your advocate and I found out about it, I would give you 24 hours to report it, or I would.
Can a school restrict access to a grade level work? 3rd grade level, but having child do kindergarten work?
So I don't know if they're restricting them. I mean, if that's where the student is functioning, it's appropriate to give them that instruction. But I'd probably need a little more information around that.
Okay. In a self-contained middle school classroom, are students entitled to electives like music, PE, etc.?
Every student in middle school is entitled to electives.
What can I do if the school doesn't want to provide compensatory speech services?
You would call an amazing advocate and help them, help me, help them, help you.
How can a parent become an advocate?
So parents already are advocates. So if they want training, please join us in the academy, which Vanna will tell you about in just a minute. And we have 2 days intensive. We have digital a la carte products that you can buy. And then we have the mastermind coming up in January.
What if there are parents sending nasty messages to special education teachers? How should I react?
I would respond and say I'm concerned that the level of aggression in your email communication, probably best if we had a Zoom IEP meeting to talk about your current concerns.
If the student receives resource classroom, should the work be different than what's done in the gen ed classroom?
The learner expectation has to be reduced because in a resource we understand that student cannot do the depth and breadth and totality of state standards.
What can I do if my school isn't providing my son his dyslexia services?
Give the school an opportunity to fix the problem, and if that doesn't happen, then you file that they've been denied part of their educational product.
Can I request an MDR for a cumulative to date suspension? Sounds like maybe suspended a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can ask for an MDR after a first behavior. You don't have to wait till 10 days. So you can request an MDR at any time.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just got that question. They flip on me. What can I do as a para when a special education teacher only provides ELA and math? That's all they provide.
Maybe I don't understand the question. So are they having the para provide the instruction?
What can I do as a para when a sped teacher only provided ELA and math? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I was trying. Can I deny psychiatric testing on my student with Down syndrome?
Can you deny it? So if a parent asks for testing, I'm going to assume that if they have Down syndrome, they're already in special education. You can't deny new testing that hasn't been done in a year. or the parents requesting it. If your student has perfect vision and they ask for a vision impairment test, you could deny that. But we all have emotional behavioral needs, so there wouldn't be a student that you could deny psychological testing.
The school wants to test and the parent says no. The parent does not want psychiatric testing.
So we don't have psychiatric testing in school. We have psychological testing and emotional behavioral. And every person on the planet has emotional behavioral needs, so it's going to be hard to overcome the request from the school.
If a child is referred to special education through public school but is actually in private school, how would that work?
So if you're in private school and you want your child tested for special education related services, the campus or district closest to the private school will do that testing.
We held an initial IEP meeting today, but there was no district rep. Is that correct or not?
So when you say district rep, do you mean somebody from the district level or do you mean a principal? You would have had to have had an LEA representative, which is the principal, assistant principal. And if they weren't there, you haven't had your meeting yet.
Sounds great. Okay.
Did you just say that sounds great?
Sounds great.
That sounds fantastic. Why would you want everybody at the meeting? Right, Gina? I mean, if you feel like showing up. Okay, I gotta tell you this. The other day I was at a meeting and this lady goes, "Can the coach go? Because we made it to regionals." I was like, "We're in Texas. If it's a sporting event, go on now." So that's actually hold on. I'm telling a story here, man. That's actually not what I said. But anyway, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I was trying to tell a funny, light story. And, Quinn is a previous teacher. So they're... Yeah.
So can a school say, my daughter's in an early college high school, and the school refuses to collect any data or provide scheduled services, no minutes for special education, no specially designed instruction, what can I do?
Well, I mean, I have kids like that are in school part of the time and they go to a college. So a public school has no onus, duty, responsibility, or obligation to provide any special ed outside of the public high school. I don't know what y'all are laughing at, but this is serious. It's Tuesday night. Straighten up.
Very serious.
It's sirs.
All right, what's happening in 11 minutes?
I'm putting on more lipstick.
No, you're doing that in 1 minute. What's
Okay.
happening in 11 minutes?
Well, we have this thing called the Academy. You want to join it? And it's amazing. It'll change your life. And so our friend Vanna's going to tell us all about it.
Awesome. Do you know how to join? Do you need somebody to tell them?
I've never joined the Academy because I am.
You've never joined it?
I've never joined it, but I'm there a lot. I feel like I'm there a lot.
I guess I joined the Academy. Maybe
Yeah.
I should tell them how to join.
Tell them.
So all the little helpers are going to put it in the chat, but you're going to go to www.specialeducationacademy.com. And at the top, there's going to be some tabs. You're going to click on the training tab. A new screen is going to pop up, and there's going to be 3 squares. One's going to be about the mastermind, which you should totally do after you do the 2-day training that's also listed. But right now, we're just focusing on the academy. It's going to be the middle square. You're going to click on that, and you're going to fill out all of your information. Yes, your credit card information. But in the coupon box where it says coupon code, question mark, it's real small, blue letters. You're going to type in all caps, TikTok Live.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Lauren. Sorry, go ahead.
Really?
It's my niece. I'm sorry. I'm a professional interrupter. Nobody let me talk during the 70s. So she wanted to give you TikTok Live. Go ahead.
Yeah. And all caps, TikTok Live. T for Timothy, I for Indigo, K for Karen, T for Timothy, O for Observer, K for Karen, L for Liar, I for Indigo, V for Victory, E for Elephant.
She meant to say lion. L for...
Yeah, sure. You're going to type that in, and you're going to get access to the Academy for 15 days for free. Once that 15 days is up, what do? You stay. It's $47 a month. You have access to all of our previous trainings for however long you'd like to stay. You don't want to stay? Well, that's sad to see you go, but you can cancel at any time, and, we'll always welcome you back. Jude said you better stay.
Somebody asked if we have scholarships. We don't. But if we did, I would have to give them to everybody on the planet. But we don't have any scholarships. But we certainly try to make it a low enough price point so that you can access it. Also, there's over 2 years of weekly training, hundreds of hours. We have archived it, and it's in series, and the Academy is amazing. Somebody asked if I ever worked at SeaWorld. No. Yes, I'm eating. Somebody asked if I worked at SeaWorld. No, I don't work at SeaWorld. That would mess up my hairdo. Did I work at SeaWorld?
Way too humid for you.
That's way too humid for me.
Maybe she was talking about me because I sounded like an announcer. Maybe.
Maybe.
Taming dolphins.
Yes, taming dolphins. Does SeaWorld have salt and pepper shakers?
It does. All right. We have to go because we have to get ready for the Academy, boss.
Yes. Okay, so I love you guys. If you need anything, not your announcer. No, I've never worked at SeaWorld, but I like, what is Karen's background?
She's talking about me.
Hold on, my background? This is IKEA. IKEA. You should get it. It's real. It's not a fake background. Now that plant is not real.
What's the site again? It's www.specialeducationacademy.com. Also, I did not work at SeaWorld, but I did work in a major behavioral special education classroom. So there's that.
Which was like a highly populated room full of activities.
Yeah. And I also have 4 special needs kids at home. One who's playing in the background that you can hear. So,
There's that.
there's that.
She said close enough. All right, we love you guys. If you need something, let us know. Remember, we're not going to be here next Tuesday night because it's the evening of sugar. So we'll see you the week after that. If you need something, let us know. Remember, when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We'll see you guys in the next training.